Andrew, good to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Jared. It's great to be here.
Excited to chat. Let's dig right in. So first off, would love for you to tell the audience a little bit about your background, and then give us a quick overview of Join as well, and we'll dig in from there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, my background is in software engineering. I grew up in the 3D printing and medical device world. So I'm the avocado toast eating computer programmer Silicon Valley stereotype that your parents told you about. Fortunately, I and the rest of the Join founding team found our way to Join about seven almost 8 years ago now, and what we built Join around was the opportunity that every commercial construction project has to maximize the outcome for the owner. Looking at the owner's outcome in terms of the program, the design, the cost, the overall project timeline, the tangled, thorny mess of constraints that every project has to navigate on top of the inherent complexities of a unique site and a unique design and unique market conditions. And Join is software that helps teams execute on that early design and pre-construction phase, particularly with a lens on collaborative project delivery methods, such as design build or construction manager at risk.
So, what's really, I guess, driving the adoption of Join in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, the adoption of Join is driven by the ongoing shift to collaborative project delivery methods. And so FMI and DBIA put out a utilization study every 3 years, and it's been interesting to chart it because the curve is just up and to the right. Like, people talk about design, bid, build methodology as traditional project delivery, but that is actually a small and shrinking slice of the pie, at least in the United States, at this point. Much, much, much more work is delivered either through design build or construction manager at risk, or CMGC delivery method. And it's only going up. And that way of working means you win work in a different way. The way that you deliver value to a client throughout that work is different, and then the incentives that each business faces in coming together and teaming up to deliver that work are different. It's great for owners. You're able to overlap work. You're able to get cost feedback more easily as you're designing the thing. You're able to do earlier constructability analyses. You can get started in the field before you finish the design even. It's great outcomes, but there's a lot more iterative, fast-moving communication. There are a lot more stakeholders around the table, and Join helps with that. We got a software solution that brings together all the principal players on commercial construction projects and helps them move from sort of napkin sketch all the way through GMP and beyond. Yeah.
Can you give me some, some examples of, how the Join software is improving some of these project outcomes for owners today?
Yeah. Let's give a microcosm example, and then we'll talk about some of the bigger stuff. But there's one story we come back to when we were out. We don't come from industry. We've had to learn a ton about the industry, and sorry, when I say we, I mean me and the other two co-founders. At this point, the team is as many decades as you want to shake a stick at of construction industry experience represented on the team. But we heard this story early on when we were doing product discovery, which was that it was a GC working on $100 million medical project, and they're flipping, in the OEC meeting, flipping through pages in design, and someone said, "Hey, we're gonna need another piece of equipment in that room. We're gonna have to add an outlet there." And the owner says, "Okay, how much does an outlet cost to add?" And the GC is like, "All right, I don't know, $1,000. It's not a big deal. Let's move on." Not a big deal to him, but apparently. And so the next meeting, the owner shows up with a Home Depot bag and walks up to the table and pours it out on the table. And out tumbles a faceplate and an electrical outlet and some conduit and some wire and some screws and a little bit of paint, and slams the receipt down and just starts laying into the team. And they're like, "How can you tell me it costs $1,000 to put an electrical outlet in? How can you look me in the eye and tell me it's going to cost $1,000 when I can buy every part and piece that I need for $62? It just lays into them, right? And it's this little microcosm captures what's challenging about executing design and pre-con, particularly for general contractors, and what's like the consequences of that are. It's like what's challenging is communication. Like it costs $1,000 because one, it's a medical building and your spec probably isn't met by the bargain parts from Home Depot. Two, there's more to an electrical outlet in a building than the parts and pieces. There's all of installation. There's all of inspections. Like three, like you just can't see that. You don't know that. You're an owner and you don't understand that. Four, who cares that it's $1,000? It's $100 million job, and you, the owner, are going to have to make thousands of decisions, most of which will have a lot higher price tag associated with them. And if you're delaying and stretching out the decision making process on this $1,000 thing, and you're calling into question the integrity of your key partners on $1,000 decision, how the heck are you going to make a $10,000 decision, a $100,000 decision, or a million or $10 million decision, which you will need to on a project of that scale? And Join helps solve that because we have a collaborative solution where you can bring all the data, all the decisions, and it lets the team, like, instead of needing to sit on the opposite sides of the table and argue about like the number and where the number is or what the timeline impacts are, or like why a certain program just isn't going to fit on the site or fit in the budget. It lets them work together against that. And so a lot of that is taking this data and making it more readily accessible so that people can browse it on their own before they come to the meeting. It's making it much easier to like track and pivot particular charts. Like owners speak a different language than design teams, and their language changes from project to project. And so, one common thing we hear in pre-construction is just, and this is just an example, is like, we go in and we think we're all ready to like get the owner to choose something to do with the structural system. They say, yeah, but can I see this report, but laid out by programmatic area of the building or laid out by funding source? And if you have to go off and build that report from scratch, that adds weeks. That adds at least a week to the decision making process. And like while that's happening, the design team is off and running, like other teams are off procuring. Like the longer that decision life cycle is, like the fewer points you have to course correct, the more rework you have to do, both in design and potentially in the field. And Join, being software, makes it really easy to do that stuff on the fly. And so we're able to bring trust interactions like that. The owner doesn't have to go to Home Depot. And from that trust, you're able to make decisions faster. You're able to have a lot more fun doing it, and deliver better outcomes. And so some just examples of outcomes. Join's deployed in a really wide number of sort of sectors and project types, but we've got hospitals that were able to like hit budget and move forward that otherwise would have taken like 2 extra years to fundraise because they were a nonprofit hospital. We've got one case study we just released was a prototype for a new prefabricated approach to a medical office building where the owner was looking to utilize this technology across a whole range of future projects. They had to come together and figure out how to get it done on the first one, and they were able to coordinate that and join. We just did a pretty great case study. This was actually an early project in Join, but YouTube did their first, Google did their first like CLT project where it was in the middle of COVID. It was complicated for all sorts of reasons. They were under a really tight timing pressure because entitlements were going to expire, and they had to get the whole team pointed in the right direction in COVID. They were able to deliver this like incredibly sustainable, like just like beautiful and amazing outcome for everyone who's going to work in that space. They were able to do it at reasonable cost because they were able to bring together all these different stakeholders and align them around a shared and common goal. So that's.
This is something I love asking everyone that ends up coming on. What's something you know now that you wish you knew when you were first getting this going?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly the answer. What I wish we had known when we were getting going is that buildings are all about people. Like where buildings come from, it's all people and the dynamics between people at the end of the day. And it would have saved us a year of our lives, maybe 2 years. When we got going, sort of like everyone at the company had seen some level of software, either architects and engineers or contractors, and we're really passionate about like the importance of this industry and had a really deep-seated belief that's only been borne out around our ability to create technology that would positively impact this industry and what it contributes to every community in the country. But in our naivete, we said, oh, who makes all the important decisions? It must be the architect. And so we should go build better automated BIM design tools that will live inside of Revit and like improve the architect's life, and then they will make the right decisions and better buildings will come out the other end, right? And like forgive us our naivete, right? Like
Yeah.
we just like we didn't know any better. Like fortunately we listened, we learned, and the thing that we learned like just pointed back towards the importance of like really it's the OAC meeting. Like that's where you have, and like a lot of other stakeholders will get brought in, but that's the real core of functions, where it's the owner who's bringing the business case for the project, and the business case might be like a really monetarily driven pro forma, or it might be like this is a house of worship and we have certain community needs that we really want to hit. Like the owner's got the why, and they've got certain constraints on it in terms of budget and timeline, and then design and construction teams, whether it's a single design build entity or separate stakeholders, like they bring the picture of like what it's going to cost, when it can be done, safety, entitlements, like how the program can be realized in the design that like embodies the goals of the project, and that is always going to be a group of people, we believe, because projects are very unique, very complicated, and so you need diverse specialist stakeholders that come together. But a consequence of that, because every project is unique, is that like what you get out like depends on how well what you get out for a huge project for a hospital tower like can depend on what three people have as a working dynamic sitting around a table. Usually the numbers are like bigger, the number of people involved for larger projects, but like it all comes down to those people. Project by project, it's just all about the people. And in some ways this is this like incredibly joyous thing that like one of the things we do, like if we're doing a gathering like with customers or just people in industry, we always ask people like, what was the favorite project that you worked on? And what like we know now, but surprised us at first, was how many of them it's all about the team. It's like, oh yeah, it was a strip mall. It was not remarkable in any way, like, but we had a great team and we worked super collaboratively. And like the that YouTube project that I mentioned, they were able to start off on a collaborative footing early, and they talked about how it played out all the way through construction, because every time you onboard a new stakeholder, a new trade partner, they come on and like see how this team works. So it's like all the events they do, the safety barbecue, super well attended, just this like shared joyful sense of camaraderie and working together. I mean, like, like construction people aren't necessarily the most like hard on their sleeve, but like going and visiting that site and talking to people, I swear like people were tearing up when they started talking about how the project was almost done. So they're like, I'm never gonna, it's much more likely to return to the norm of like sort of much more antagonistic relationship between stakeholders in future jobs. And so yeah, I think the thing we wish we had known at the beginning that would have saved us some time in discovery is the degree to which the interpersonal dynamics early of those key stakeholders impact like what we see in the skyline and the spaces we spend our day in. Yeah.
In building this company, Andrew, has there been anyone that's particularly or any people that have really stood out as either a mentor or have been a big influence on what you've built or helped drive you to get where you're at today?
Yeah, I think there's probably um, three categories of them that I point to. One is sort of on the like building a technology company side, and so it's I'm here in the Bay Area. My whole career has been in Silicon Valley, mostly at startups, and so there's people who have like done it before who have been taking the time to sort of pay it forward and help educate me about places that like we would stub our toe and so forth. And then there's two groups of folks in industry. The first I would say are the people who gave us the time of day early. We were, when we started this, we've defined this category in pre-construction. It's like collaborative tools, both at the project level and in terms of having this like data platform that aggregates it to serve an entire enterprise. Like we're first to market. Like sort of felt our way to this space, and then we had to go sit with teams and get them to like open up to us about the project. And we were starting with like a whiteboard and sticky notes of like, well, how do you do this? Like, oh, and then a lot of email goes back and forth, and that part kind of sucks, doesn't it? Like, that sort of stuff. And um, the people who engaged with us there and brought us in and shared open and honestly like where they were and where the pain was, and then gave a very early product a shot. Um, we wouldn't have a company without them, and we'll be forever grateful for them. And sort of join's impact even beyond their firms is like completely dependent on them. I think a lot of like software companies don't realize like, or actually maybe the software companies do. I think they probably do in their bones, like how important those first like users are, the ones who will take a shot. Like the first version of the product, I don't even know, like we had some bug and I don't think you could copy paste anything in. Like you had to, and people had like full budgets in there, like, and they used their fingers to type it in, like the first couple times, and like, I wouldn't have put up with that, like, but these people did, and we worked really hard to like improve very very quickly. But yeah, I would say those mentors, and so it's like folks, Kelly Ortiz, Lisa Lawrence, Tony and Damien and Messer. There's it's a long list of people that we owe a lot of guidance
It,
there.
it's funny because there's some people out there that say they love being a first user of a product, but then you talk to them and every little thing bothers them. And I'm like, then you're not. Like, that's not, it's totally fine too. Being a first user for some new tool is completely fine. Like, if you don't want to be that, it's understand it because there is going to be some growing pains. It takes a very special person to be willing to say, this is going to be great as it continues to improve.
Yeah,
I'll be along for the ride. And as a result, they have a lot more like power with you, right? In terms of helping you craft what it is they want. So that's pretty cool.
yeah.
I've
Oh, there's a third
oh
group.
yeah,
Let me just really quickly, and that's there's a number of we're a venture backed company like many, and we've been fortunate to work with a number of the sector specific funds that sort of exist focused on the construction industry or on like the real estate industry, and uh, building ventures, Metaprop, Standard Ventures, Iron Spring, all on our cap table. Um, Partners that we've been lucky to work with there have a lot to offer in company building, both because they see a lot in terms of like breadth of companies that they've seen, but it's also entirely inside the industry that we're in. And there are, construction's a little quirky sometimes, and they're able to bring a perspective to that has been really helpful. So I should give them a shout out.
love it. Last question for you before we wrap up. What's next for Join that really excites you?
Oh yeah. So we're just in the process of rolling out a repackaging of some functionality that we've developed. Where we started with the project team, we started with the OIC meeting, we started with like, don't have the owner drive to Home Depot and yell at you, right? And that we started there because we believe that's like the most important crux for a project. That's where projects get better or get worse, and where technology can help in assembling all the information that will drive the right decisions on the project. What we're announcing is we've been, over the last couple of years, developing a set of modules that aggregate the data that comes from those projects and allow it to be used in new ways. And so this ranges from leveraging historical cost information that's inside of Join to build up early stage conceptual models, through having a library of commonly considered decisions or options that you're able to track and understand across your entire company, through portfolio level tools that let you see and understand how risk and project status is evolving in design and pre-construction before you get it into your project financial system and can start to understand it there. Through the ability to like standardize and level up the whole team, just enforce some level of standardization in pre-construction processes. And we're really excited about that, both just for the being able to roll out to a broader audience, the immediate value of that, but where we think that goes is allowing project teams to stand on each other's shoulders. So like I'm the tech guy thing. Software developers are incredibly privileged in that it's very easy and very straightforward to build on top of other people's work, right? Like if I want to deliver a web app, I don't have to write a browser. If I want to deliver a mobile app, I don't have to create a phone. I don't have to write the operating system there. There are all sorts of libraries that I can use. And that sort of comes from like how technology and software work. Construction, it's much harder to do that. The project teams are fragmented. Every project is this unique R&D exercise. It's just a lot harder to accomplish this. However, we think that we've got a chance to start to change that because we've got both the place to collect the information from and the place to put it to work in Join Project. And now in Join Core, we have something that can get stronger and stronger over time as companies accrue, knowledge, intellectual property, and data in there. So yeah, I'm really excited about that going forward.
I'm excited for you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in the near future. Definitely keep us in the loop with any updates, and wishing you and the team all the best of luck.
Cool. Thanks so much, Jared. Have a good day.